Hello, everybody, and welcome to Resolve the Unsolved Forum from Panacea eBiz Consulting Group. In fact, we have been engaging nearly every Saturday at the same time with a portion of the business community, entrepreneurs across the country, and once in a while internationally too. And we have been discussing on various business aspects, starting to the aspects of financing, to venture capital, to succession planning and family businesses. Of late, with the experiences which most of us have been having in the last 15, 16 months, because of the unprecedented scenario and the challenges which we are facing because of COVID-19, specifically business families, high net worth business groups, individuals, there have been a major concern, not only during this period, prior to that also, on multi-generation wealth management or wealth preservation. We have interacted, in fact, in the last 2 to 3 months with certain families where, because of the situation, unexpected passing away of key members, family members took place, which has put the entire family business into a jeopardy, into problems. Now, as we have been discussing on these issues consistently, what we found missing in most of the cases has been a proper management, proper planning within business families which are into second generation, third generation, fourth generation of businesses, business families. And not only about managing finances, not only managing assets, not only managing businesses, but a complete holistic vision and planning within the family itself in terms of how to preserve the hard-earned, not only the wealth, the operations, the businesses which has been built across generations. And it has been a challenge. Today, along with me, I'm Sandeep Ghosh here. I have Mr. Sushil Jain and Mr. Ravinder Goyal. Mr. Sushil Jain is a family office and wealth management expert. He's a certified financial planner, fellow from Insurance Institute of India, member of Indian Institute of Banking and Finance. He's a regular on Zee Business News to provide his information for common man's investing needs, as well as advisory into business families. He has a rich experience of 22 years plus in personal finance and family office. He had a long stint with the corporate world too, with companies like Bajaj Capital, where he has been anchoring senior positions. Also with me, as usual, I have Mr. Ravinder Goyal. He himself, if I'm right, Mr. Goyal, the 8th generation in his family business.
Yeah. Hello.
Hello. And Mr. Goyal is not only an entrepreneur, he has been dabbling with two hats. One, he has been advising, mentoring, and guiding startups. His focus is tech startups now, and he has successfully managed skilling and training business across the country with more than 200 plus centers of implementing those operations, running those operations, enabling young Indians to take on to new skills and get engaged with the industry. Welcome, Mr. Goyal, and welcome, Mr. Jain, to the forum. To start off with, what we'll do is we will broad-base the discussion today. We'll not get into very, very specifics. We will try and understand why multi-generation wealth preservation is a challenge. In the first context, why are we calling it a challenge? That's very important to understand. Is it really a challenge or not? to start off on the discussion, I request Mr. Goel to say a few words before I go over to Mr. Chen. Mr. Goel, please.
Sushil is still fighting with the video issue. The topic when we talk about multi-generational wealth management, it's something like inheritance we are talking about, one. And second thing,
Yes.
we're talking about like cascading effect of the decisions we take in the families and how it goes on. Because when you have a nuclear family, father, mother, and the two kids or one kid, so there
Right.
don't see such kind of issues cropping up. But when you have multiple a family tree, where father probably had 5, 6 brothers. Before that, their grandparents had multiple brothers, their children's. The branching comes out so large. And when you have industries which are running as a joint business, so in times to come, conflict do comes. Means every new entrant comes up with his own energy, comes up with his own ideas, and comes up with own ideologies. I must say that what he has seen in the college or maybe with the peer group or maybe the families he has interacted with.
Right.
So multi-generational wealth management is a subject where we look out, probably will expand further, how
Yes.
longevity of the family office we can hold for, where everybody is still working together, everybody is joined together, everybody is independent, or rather
Mr.
interdependent.
Goel, your video and voice is not coming through.
I think today will be.
I'm not able to hear.
Is it okay now?
Hello?
Is it okay now?
It's okay now.
All right. So whatever whatever way it happens, so the focus of the probably the what we call the mukhya, the head of the family, the person who started the business, or the person who is left as the key person who was among the founder member of the business. So the key decision making lies onto him, and how he manages the entire show, how he manages the wealth. Now, part is that one, the wealth has to grow as well. Now you have a property which is grown by default, but if you have investments, if you have a reserve surplus, how do you manage that? How do you invest that? How everybody can be benefited? So there are a lot of issues where probably sometime it happens that as a tendency in the Asia specific region, if we talk about it, is written across that tendency is not to disclose the details with the advisors, tendency of not taking professional help, tendency of not talking to the family members, tendency of not remaining transparent. So a lot of behavioral issues are there, which probably becomes the cause of conflict, and the generations starts falling apart, and then probably get into the legal. There are issues in the courts which are lasting for more than 10, 20, 30 years, and still the families are fighting with each other.
Right.
One part is that avoiding the conflict. I see that multi-generational wealth management should be taken up into two parts. One is avoiding conflict, and second is to grow your wealth. So I think we'll be going ahead with it. So back to Sandeep now.
Right. Very true. See, in fact, Mr. Goel, what you mentioned, we have seen while interacting with various families, नहीं information share नहीं करेंगे, और जो senior है, they say, okay, fine, I am the only person, I will talk to the accounts person, and the accounts person, the finance person talks to the senior person in the family, and that's it. Nobody knows. I was talking to Sushil also yesterday before about this program. We encountered a couple of situations in the last 4 or 5 months where unfortunately the senior person in the family could not perform or passed away. And there are multiple businesses in the family, they're shareholders, but nobody has any idea. Businesses are stuck, things are not operational. taking on from Mr. Goel, Sushil, if you can share from your experience, I'm sure you will be also able to define that why it is a challenge.
Well, thank you. Mr. Ghosh, actually, the problem arises not in outside world, okay? When we discuss about the
Right.
multi-family office, right? As
Right.
rightly said by Mr. Goel, that the communication gap between the different family members is a
Ji.
major problem. And in my of last 20-25 year experience, I discussion around 10-12 big families, apart from
Okay.
lots of small families. The gap is that the karta, which in Indian language, karta is the sole decision maker in each and every decision, whether
Okay.
whether it's about businesses or their family matters.
Okay.
So it's created some gap between the generations.
Right.
So a main problem is the things, this and then the karta thinks that I will be there for the next 20-30 years. So why need to discuss about the will, date planning, or pass on the generation or pass on the powers or responsibilities? Right. So this is the big challenge which Indian society is facing. And earlier this is not happening. I say around 80s or 70s. You can have a good family, you have business running by Godrej, by Bajaj,
Right.
right? So this is the main challenge, I think, the communication gap, and then obviously external problems are also lots of external problems are there, like regulations, tax policies, state planning policies, and especially inheritance. There is lots of changes in first couple of years, government policies. So that is also an need to taken care of while discussing for the next generation or
Okay.
generation.
Okay. Okay. So, if I've got you right, Sushil, as Mr. Goel and you both agreed to some common points, like you've been advising and Mr. Goel been part of an entrepreneurial family. So, one is not the one key person handling the entire family operations, thinks he or she will be able to manage it for the next couple of years. Okay.
Yeah.
Not actually facing the reality. Second, not sharing information with external world or consultants or advisors. Okay. Now let me broaden that scope a bit, because we have, Sushil, you as an expert, I have been consulting various companies, and we have Mr. Goel, himself an entrepreneur, a part of a rich family generation, and also an advisor and a mentor to various companies. So we can deep dive further. What I've seen is, it is surprising families which are having a couple of generations, brothers and sisters, lot of assets, lot of properties, don't actually plan out. Life is just going like any other families. Morning, the first generation, if I'm taking, builds up the business, runs from morning to evening. Younger generation, busy in going to school or something, morning to evening. They have certain aspirations. The generation which is building the business has an aspiration. And as you also mentioned, Mr. Goel also mentioned, communication gap. It is not about sitting on the dinner table or lunch table and having a chat about business. But I feel the business family should have a well-defined vision also. What does my family wants to do? What is a long-term plan? If my new young generation is coming up, they will have a vision. They may have a technology vision. उनको क्या करना है? मैंने तो इंडस्ट्री बना लिया, but उनको इंडस्ट्री चलाना नहीं है. Which kind of education they can go for? Because the planning is not only about finance. Because if you have wealth, yes, Mr. Goel, you were saying something.
You see, you were entering into a different subject, so I just thought to add one or two lines.
Please, please.
But I think a couple of a decade before I remember a big corporate salary structure I was going through. So the CEO of the company who was doing a business of around 300, 500 crore, he was getting a salary of around, let's say, 2 to 3 crore. And the same group launched a new tech-based company, and the CEO was offered a salary of around 7 to 10 crore. Now, you see, this happens in the family business as well.
Yes.
Like when you have multiple businesses going on, so it is not possible that every business will bring in the same kind of revenue or same kind of turnovers. But
Yes.
like if you have five, let's say 4 brothers and 2 sons each, so you have actually 8 plus 4, 12 people working, and they all have different revenues, different calculations, different businesses.
Right.
How do you manage them? So that basically is the key conflict concept which comes up. Somebody who is doing good, he feels that company is running because of me, and the other companies are a loss to the entire system. So he by default presumes that I should have more privileges,
True.
whereas they don't see that ultimately they are linked to the main trunk as a branch. So
Yes.
that part is missing, that the family, the karta, the mukhya also start giving extra privileges, extra communication, extra appreciation to the guy who's doing good business.
Yes.
Whereas
Yes.
it is like performance is not individual, performance is as a group.
Grow.
So I feel that in the family structures, everybody, whether they are doing good or bad, they should be paid from the family office rather than from the business.
It is a good suggestion. It's a good suggestion. At this juncture, let me bring in Sushil. Sushil, Mr. Goel brought in a very, very important point. Before we go to the next level, what do you feel about this context?
Right. Mr. Ghosh, I will share my experience. Okay, I will
Sure.
not go more of theoretical. Okay, I would prefer to give the examples which I actually deal with them. Okay, the real time examples. And Goel rightly said that it should be paid from the family business, the net profit of the complete unit, like the fixed remuneration sort of thing, right?
Yes.
But what I get success in some different these things, that families should divide the units and clear the role and responsibility with the accountability, that each person will do what. Okay, and the communication gap and the transparency is come because they didn't spend time with the family due to the busy schedule of their businesses, okay, and due to other engagements. So what
Right.
I normally prepare is means my each and every client have a mandatory these things, that they have to spend at least 1 week in a year out of their home place, okay, where they reside, okay. So
Okay.
that gives them lot of time to understand each other thoughts, the value of their family, their businesses, and then it will clearly their question of remuneration, or if someone is lacking their performing, the mentoring also be defined at that time.
Okay.
So what we are preparing like that to clear the role clarity, and then
Yes.
similarly the remuneration part. So if we
Right.
do, if the family karta is doing these things, then transparency is will there, the role clarity is there. The main problem what is in the family, next generation family offices are this, that the karta thinks what the next generation will do, how they can add value to the organization. Okay. And the other thing, the soft emotional factors. कि अभी बच्चा है, let him enjoy his life. Okay. And because of that, the next generation is cutting from the family values and enterprises. And what I believe, from the age of 16, once he pass out the board, class 10 board exam, and he is able to take a decision which stream he will go, you should involve him the major decisions
Right.
of businesses and family. It will give them accountability and responsibility in this involvement and bonding also.
Bonding also.
Bonding also. That will give add some value. At the same time, the next generation think whether my skill come add value in the organization or family or not. So this the meetings which I prepare at least one for 1 week. It gives clear these things to each and other. Three generation I have dealt with first, second, third generation. Third generation what they will going to do. Who will replace whom?
Right.
It's clearly in place well before the mishappening is okay. So this is I normally I do with my clients.
Good. Good. Now,
I think I'll add
yes.
one more line as Sanjeev has written a good message
Yes.
where he has talked about the new generation is more inclined towards going abroad,
Mhm.
settling down there and probably do some innovative things. Now,
Mhm.
that again brings out another conflict where let's say the elders are working in the company in India and the
Yes.
newer generation after studies, they say that I'm settling, let's say in UK or US or somewhere wherever they have studied. Now, what happens that they ask for money that, okay, they don't want to come back. Now, who will invest one, what kind of control you will carry two, what kind of revenue sharing they will do three, and the people who are basically generating wealth or generating revenue, they are going to fund that venture. And once the venture initiated, the boy or the girl, basically they are not accountable to the parent body. So
True.
I think the family office has to play a role of a venture capitalist or a investor group rather than parents or maybe the
True.
family people, where everything is defined like an investor that if somebody is doing that, he will be getting a part of it and he will not be having the 100% control beyond, and he cannot really walk out and say that you are nobody and I'm everything.
Yes.
So
Yes.
those things have to be defined in a proper way until unless the communication is drafted, what Sushil has said. So that is what is missing. I mean, people are letting it go in the first phase, and down the line, 5, 6 years, they said, Ki, yaar, this is not discussed. He is behaving differently, and we don't have any control over it, and he's not coming back. So sometimes things goes not sometimes, but most of the time when it is not planned in a systematic way, definitely we are going to face challenges.
That is it. Because see, as you pointed out, Mr. Goel and Sushil, business families, when we are talking about challenge of managing the wealth, wealth is not only the money and assets, right? What you all pointed out can be summed up in two ways. One is having a long-term focus instead of a short-term focus. That means the business family have to have a long-term focus, which can incorporate what Mr. Goel shared about a generation studying abroad and not getting connected. With the example Sushil you shared with the new generation not getting connected. Okay? And also with an example that some business are not doing well, some person is not doing well, there can be an unconscious bias within the family, which is there.
That's
And
too often.
too often.
Yeah.
So what happens is venture funding, things, everything is possible. What is very, very important is to handle this challenge. First, the family has to accept that the entire family has to have a well-defined long-term plan with every individual member within the family. Am I right, Sushil?
Yeah, you rightly said it's a very need in today's scenario because and that is also done if you involve the next generation from very beginning. Then only he can align with you.
Yes.
Otherwise, what happened? What challenge I feel right now nowadays? The new generation is very. They don't think the long term perspective. They think 5, 7 year valuation create करेंगे बेच देंगे company. Right. The valuation thing is very much popular nowadays in new generation. They
Huh.
so-called startups and all of these things. So
Right.
everything they go to startup and they start and then they try to sell out in 5, 7 or 10 years. So they don't
Right.
have it long term. Generation to generation's vision. Earlier, you can see the big business houses in India, they have long-term vision in place.
Yes.
So this is only done if you involve the generations from the beginning, that what we are want to do as a family, what we are going to contribute to the society as well as to creation of our wealth. So if that
Right.
is there, then the problem is doing their own business. They always think that I have to do a business which align with my existing businesses. So that will be the solution if we can think.
True. So this is where exactly like a company, the family has to plan out. It has to have a clarity. And very important thing which I'd like to put in over here, which I think Sushi, you will also agree, Mr. Goyal will also agree. When we're talking about wealth management within a family business, it is not only, as I've been saying, finance and finance and finance. It is about a huge array of things. It involves the philanthropic consulting of the family safety, the security planning, bill payments, because a very, very rich family, a huge family will have its own expenses worked out. It involves record keeping, taxes and legal compliances. Yes, we have seen people dependent only on chartered accountants or legal. That's fine. Health, fitness, travel, studies, aligning with the future planning. How will new businesses get funded? As Sanjeev rightly mentioned, Mr. Goyal mentioned, will it be venture? Or can it be self-financed? Or can an internal funding be created? Like families, like big families like Dabas and others have already created. At the same time, we have covered a portion of this topic before. What is a family corporate governance structure? Okay. Plus, if there is a conflict, who does the mediation? So, if I have to preserve the family wealth, it's a combination of lot many things. It is not only filing tax returns and legal compliances. It is absolutely understanding the family. Sushil, as you pointed out, issues which Mr. Goyal pointed out. I'm sharing with you, we have seen a lot of advisories of people who don't deep dive. You have to understand the next generation. What is the next generation looking for? Not to stop them, but can they be changed? Can they be supported? How will we support them in the new vision? What should be done? How to go about? Where will they study? How to ensure the things are proper? What could be the next level of educations to run the business? How should they be mentored, trained? And across the world, I am not ashamed of sharing a data which I'm sure Sushil or Mr. Goyal will second. We have seen a generation building up huge assets and wealth. And this assets and wealth could not be sustained in the next generation. And by the time the third generation comes in, it disappears. It is not only in India, across. Am I right, Sushil?
Yeah, right.
So, would you point out why does this happen? Because you have seen why this is happening.
Yeah, this again, I say that the communication and the alignment of the new generation with the old generation.
Sushil, your voice is cracking. Not.
Yes, Sushil, if your voice.
Maybe the speaker. Okay.
Yeah.
So what I say is because of the not aligning the new generation vision and value goals with the existing one. Okay. So in here the expert professional's role is coming. Like
Right.
That earlier what happened, the senior member of family or some uncle will play the role between the two generations to if there is any conflict. Okay. Now the new generation is believed more on professionals because the changes, the technology changes, the way of working is changes. The uncles and other things, other relatives are not able to understand the next generation. You can see in last 10 years or 15 years, lots of things are changes. Leave 10 years, last 2 years, you can see the way of working is changes.
Yes.
Right? We all are working from home now.
Right.
So these changes are only understood and forecast by the professionals only. So
True.
if the professional is there, if they hire a professional, most of the family who is run by 3 or 4 generations now, they have their professionals. They listen to them, they take their advices, and they took their decisions. So then only you can survive. This is the gap. As you ask, if you will, what is the solution of this? The solution is to have an independent professional advisor for a family to fill the gap of the generations.
Right.
We are updated with the economy. We are updated with the changes in the market scenarios, and the technologies, to give proper guidance and understand both the old and new generation.
Very true. Very true.
I
Very
think I
true.
would like to add here.
Please.
In corporates, I think there is a new term, probably not very new, town hall.
Yes.
Everybody sits down and they discuss very openly. That generally nowadays does not happen in the families, or even in the past it never used to happen. But I think the time with the newer generation has come where they need to be given space to speak up what they have in mind. Otherwise,
Wonderful. Wonderful.
creating a volcanic situation, and that's how as you said, the generations have earned money, and so suddenly the one generation comes and wipe out the entire whatever wealth they have created. So I think the town hall concept, like I'll take an example of Corona. In the Corona, most of the people I've seen, they say, I will not have Corona, or my immunity is strong. It is just a virus, probably it will go in 2 3 days. 2 3 day passes out with some steam and everything, then the fever gets high, some other symptoms start developing, then they say, okay, my friend had corona and he took these tablets, so he said, keep bring those tablets, I'll eat my own. So at the day of 5th or 6th or 7th day, when things goes out of control, then they rushes for the hospital. Now same thing happens in family business. The person who has grievance, that is not managed at the root level,
Very important.
that is not discussed, that is not identified. So that becomes a different kind of environment once you do not address to that issue. Good, bad, ugly, mean, you see, if I have some thought in my mind, I'm going to have egos built up around that.
Yes.
That's how the humans behave. So if we talk about if you have allowed somebody to inculcate a particular kind of a grudge or a grievance and you have not handled that, so that means that in future you are going to have a disaster ready.
True.
So
True.
keeping that into mind, I think the first part, I mean, I'm just going a little more back. The
Please.
schooling and college, at school and
Very
college,
true.
we need
Very
to
important.
have a subject or maybe a topic where entrepreneurship, family morals, family engagements, family businesses, or how to cope up with the relations. I mean, it all has to be inculcated at the grassroots level, where we talk about the history, we talk about science, mathematics, and everything. I remember in 12th, people does sine theta, cosine theta, this and that formulas, which we never use in our life. But the kind of education we need today for the newer generation, and I must not say we don't need it. We are the culprits basically. We don't give values to what generation is thinking now. We say,
True.
यार इनको कुछ पता नहीं है. I mean, that's the simple dialogue. They are flimsy in their thoughts. और वो हम उसको ये बात कह के दबा देते हैं. Whereas it has to be addressed in a way like a counseling, where
True.
they have been told clearly what good you are talking, what bad you are talking, how it will come up in future.
Right. No, this is very important. Very important. What you mentioned. Sushi, would you like to add on to this?
It's right. It's that it can give the value of the next generation. And this thing, yes, we can trust. अभी तो बच्चा है, क्या जानता है या क्या नई चीज देख क्या है. So they like this sort of thing. I used to listen with that all listening. But yes, we need to give the value of the next generation thoughts, views. Then only the wealth of next generation. Ultimately, the wealth have to manage by the next generation only. So you
Right.
whether you trust them or not, ultimately you pass on to them only. So why not you trust them and just give them an open field to play? And you are there always to monitor them. And we are, as a coach, we are also there to help you and as well as the next generation. So
Just
we are doing like that only with the families. There have a conflict between generations.
no, this is a very wonderful line you mentioned. Whatever you do, your wealth will be managed by the next generation only. Okay. So what Mr. Goyal also you shared rightly, as an entrepreneur, as a business family, whatever I'm building up, 20 companies or 2 companies or international companies which are there, I have to form school, train, coach, build, educate, socialize, build trust, expose them. It's a hard work. It's not so easy. The more wealth you have accumulated, it's more important that from the time of school and forward, you incorporate. See, as we are talking about new generation, sometimes you will feel we are talking about new generation. What is wealth management? Wealth management, I would say, is a very wide term. As Sushil and Mr. Goyal have been consistently repeating, as I've been saying, it's a holistic approach. Educating, trust, sharing, nurturing, transparent. Every member in the family will have different talents. How will you identify them?
That is one.
Everybody within the.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I'm just.
Yes, please. You're.
Today, if you look at most of the middle-sized business people, business families are facing another crisis. I mean, the next generation is not opting to get into the business, and they are saying we'll go for service.
Yes.
Why that is happening now? But if you really go deep down into the subject, where the father or maybe the grandfather, the way they have done and handled the business and the crisis and the stress, the next generation is saying that we don't want anything like this in our life. We just want to have a cool life, peaceful life, happy life.
Right.
So you need to understand that with the period of time, what you have done in past to survive, because 60s, 70s, 80s was a survival period. Now,
yes.
Today it is not. Today it is not. We have created a wealth. The next generation would like to create, probably build around the life. They are not struggling for life. They want to enjoy their life. So this is another subject where, because of our behavior, because of our working, because of our communication, because of the way we portray to the family, I've seen many people. I'm just using my own experience. Uh, in the office, they're happy, they're smiling, everything. The moment they get into the home, their face become drowsy, and they say, "I'm too tired. It was a busy day, and life is hell. It was a whole hectic day." So you see, you portray the negativity. You take negativity at home. So that makes that is making probably the younger generation to look out free life, not in the business but somewhere else. So that is another point I think which I would like to share.
Yeah, Mr. Goyal rightly says I is facing same problem around last Sunday only. One next generation is just sorting out in which subject he need to take. So he took a subject, supply chain management, as an optional subject. He called me, sir, which please help me out. So what is supply chain management? I told him, just look to your father. He is in supply chain management only. But he's a businessman. And he's doing these things only, trading business. It's like in supply chain management also. He procure the goods and then properly supply the goods and all those. Then when I say he is doing these things, supply chain management, he will help you more practical with more practical approaches. So say, oh really? They do these things only? Okay, yes. So this is the problem. We didn't tell the next generation what we are doing, how we enjoying these things, or whether it's a painful. So if rightly Mr. Goyal said, the client says, that, oh, it's a very tough day. The stock is stuck somewhere. It's not delivered on right time. So the next generation listen all those negative things and they want to get rid of such things. Right. So one thing is that, and the other thing is why they are going to a job, because when they join, suppose the person selected in IIM or IIT, what the first thing is, okay, यहाँ से निकलते ही तुम्हारे को 20 लाख का 40 लाख का पैकेज तो मिल जाएगा. So starting from there, he thinking for joining some corporate. No family officer or no karta will tell, okay, you did a IIM, okay, no problem, you just join our business, we are ready for that. By the time you pass out, our organization will welcome you and you have a place to play your talent here. So never we discuss all those things. This is the because these things we go for some corporate and join some corporate, and the gap is increasing day by day. So
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. We have seen, Sushil, what you pointed out, we have seen families. What I'm sharing from is two contexts. In some of the management schools which we have been teaching, 50% come from business families. Obviously, I will not name the school since Sushil mentioned about MBA management. And we also are with the business families and the corporate. I won't hesitate saying that what people think initially that I will get out, get $1 million job, or venture fund capitalists will fund me, this does not happen in the real world so easily. Everybody sitting over here knows, including Sushil, Mr. Goel, Sanjeev, whom I know in finance, go and try to get financed. How easy or difficult it is, you will understand. It's there, simply. Not collateral based, the number one. Two, wherever you're working, you have to prove yourself. And as Sushil rightly mentioned, there are a lot of golden opportunities within organizations, and the wealth which has been lost by generations are because of very rightly what you and Mr. Goel have been sharing, starting from communication to involvement to understanding an individual, sharing business opportunities within the businesses. What is happening? What is my opportunity which is there? Okay, and plus something which is passionately built up. I'm not getting to passion. 45 days back, I know a friend's family. The gentleman around Delhi NCR had 3 schools, 5 industries, managing on his own, 2 daughters settled abroad. Unfortunately, he was taking care of them during COVID. His family survived, he could not. All these businesses cumulatively is employing 1,500 people. Nobody knows how to run the business. Nobody. Now, what's going to happen with the business? Nobody knows. Now, like this, there are scenarios, not only 1 or 2, hundreds. Imagine a wealth been built up, an asset been built up. Where it's going to end, nobody knows as a situation.
I think I can add a bit here.
Yes.
As we have like one of the habits of Stephen Covey, the start with end in mind.
Yes.
The industries or the businesses started somewhere in 40s, 50s or 60s. Those never started with end in mind. Those were just cropped up out of an opportunity because that was an era when whatever you get into, it used to get flourished. Now, I have a couple of families, couple of business people I know. Same situation have come, 5, 6 brothers, they started something, they created a wealth. Now, in many of the cases that the company they started is no more into existence. Children have got into something else. Some are working, some are probably have started their own. So the buildings, the factories, everything is now has become such a what you call a critical situation that if somebody wants to capitalize those investments, they can't because they have to take permission from the entire group.
Yes.
Unless everybody signs, they can't dispose of the property. So coming back to the agenda we started with, the multi-generation wealth management, one thing we have to take from the Stephen Covey is start with end in mind. That
yes.
Buying properties, so how do we sell in case if there is a conflict? I know a family which probably is fighting in the court for last, I think, 2 decades. And the property they have is around 200, 300 crore rupees property. I will not name them. They do not
True.
have things to manage their lives on day-to-day basis. They're still fighting. And in case if they sell maybe 5-10% less, or maybe they adjust their egos accordingly, then they can live a king size life. So we do not get into the situation where everything is what you call like becomes a library. Everybody knows what who carries what belongs to whom. So that is what does not happen when you start with nothing in mind and just looking for that I have to get into business and we'll see it later on. That later never comes. You never include the professionals. You never consult your CAs. You see, we do not plan that we will die someday. That's the biggest issue. We never plan that sometime we will not be on the chair we are sitting now. And that's the core of the problem. The moment you know that, okay, I have 5 years and after that this chair will be taken care by somebody else. Like my couple of retractors are here. In Rotary, we have a tendency that every 1 year, president will change. He has done good, he has done bad. It will, I mean, he'll be changed. And the same in the Rotaract Club. The president cannot continue. So he knows that the my time period is going to finish on 30th of June. Whereas in business, in the wealth management, we just want to hold the signature value till we are on the last breath. We don't give up. If you go back, let's say 5,000 years back, there was a time after 60 years, the Raja, the king, was supposed to go to Vanprastha.
Mhm.
He was supposed to retire and give
Mhm.
his kingdom to the son or the successor, irrespective of he is eligible or not. And then the Mughals came. In that generation, they were not. They were quite impatient. They never waited for their father to go and retire. So most of the time, they took the chance in their own hands. So you see, it happens that we do not plan. We feel that we are going to live very long. So properties is something which becomes very critical. Then probably the wealth you have stored in different formats, FDs, or maybe offshore properties, or maybe the investment shares. But we do not even bank until unless insists that there should be nominee of your account. I think we will not nominate even somebody.
Yes. Yes.
In the COVID period, I happen to know a couple of families where the Karta died and families do not know even how many bank accounts we have. And they do not have access to any money which is lying in the bank. So it is basically the awareness at the right from the school level to the college level, or like the kind of awareness we have done for the wear mask, don't come out with the mask. So that kind of awareness is required, I think, for the entire system to be corrected at different level.
So you're very
Uh,
true. Very true. Yes, Sushil, you wanted to add something.
yeah, actually, this would be the ideal situation. But what happened when we discuss about all these things, giving nomination and will? One thing is that first thing they come into mind that you are planning for my this death का plan कर रहे हो तुम. And the other thing is if you want to घर पे बंटवारा करना चाहते हो, right? As a मतलब family office person or professional, when I discuss all these things, first type of problem is come in front of me. So actually, for the first the condition to be my client is to create a will. When I take any payment, first you need to create a will, then only I start dealing with you. So this is because the reason is true. First, when we go for a will, we mention everything, each and everything. Like Mr. Goyal said that the bank, they don't know about the bank accounts, how many bank accounts we have. So when we write the will, everything is come there. And the second thing, once if something is happening is there, the entire family come to me. And then at that time, if I don't have the entire detail, then it's a professional liability for me. That for what you charge for, if you are not able to help us. So these things, but most of the cases, clients say, bill ko side karo, baki baatein shuru karo. So this is because they don't want to keep, they feel that the control will go from my hand to next generation. But it's not like that. Will is not that you can change any time the will. So the awareness, as Mr. Goyal said, right, said that the awareness needs to be created, and the responsibility to create the awareness is on us only. As a professional, as a family office companies, it's our duty to create the awareness between the families. But this in COVID period, yes, there is lots of awareness. Clients who deny to write the will or update the will, they come directly that just write down my will. I need the will now. My brother-in-law is going like this. My uncle is going like this. Now the awareness is come. And the COVID period is actually, I say, for the family office businesses, it really helps a lot because it gives a time to spend time with the families and the understanding each other. And they know how to use the Zoom. It will also help the Zoom meetings also done easily.
True.
So the connectivity is increased. And the restructuring of the family is also done in last 2 years. Lots of family IT is.
Okay.
So it's a very good time to spend and restructuring the family these things, and the gap between the 2 or 3 generations is minimized during this period.
So this is great.
Just on a lighter note, if we go through the statistics of internet usage during this COVID lockdown period,
Right.
this statement might not hold true. People have been on the internet, WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram, and so many channels, Netflix, for more than 12 to 14 hours.
Right.
Actually, because of that, the connect also, like a Zoom meeting or WhatsApp group, the family group is very good now. I use it. I use share the information about the family meeting, the outcome of the minutes of the meetings, like all those things. Earlier, my condition earlier, what happened? I need, when I do the meeting, I need especially spouse with them. Normally क्या करता बैठ गया ठीक है वो क्या जानते वो नहीं कुछ involve होत गया ऐसे ही मतलब this thing is very common in our society, but this is the compulsion from my end. That is my company policy. When we discuss about the family businesses and all these things, your spouse would be with you. If there is a conflict between you and your spouse, clearly tell me what is your plan. If you want to separate it in future, then please let me know. So I plan accordingly.
Right. This is very important because if you have a 200-300 crore property, split is a very expensive thing.
Right.
It happens, and not only that, it distributes wealth. So, very rightly put across in a discussion, it is not about the karta or the only single person of that multi-generational family sitting down with his accounts person and planning things out. No. If when you're planning and working on managing your wealth and assets, what you have achieved, one, you have to open up. It involves not only finance, it involves everything. As Mr. Goel and Mr. Sushil Jain has been pointing out, starting from mentoring to education, to sharing, to information, to attitude, to what you have been sharing, Sushil, about bonding, social groups, understanding each other. That is where your wealth will be preserved and passed on to operational planning, like funding, has to be looked into, which is very, very important. Does anybody have any queries at this stage or any points which you want to put across? You can unmute and speak out, or you can put it on the chat, please. Anybody who is listening to us, any queries, any suggestion?
Sandeep, I've been handled the businesses. What is happening in the businesses is that they may be doing a lot of things and they are successful. But once the first generation moves out, I have seen one of my clients and he was handling the entire banking. Once he has been, he expired due to COVID last year.
Right.
The entire group has come into the major challenge. One of the basic thing that I slightly out of the context from the wealth is that
Please.
the innovation in the business, because innovation in the business process will bring the wealth actually.
Yes.
Wealth is the outcome of your activity that you do throughout the year or throughout the period, which
It's
accumulate into
know-how
a
and
wealth.
knowledge.
Yeah. So
Yes.
I think now, like Ravindra ji has talked about and Sushil ji talked about, there is an organization and where the entire family, including all the children, wives, all the ladies and the gents, goes 15 days off-site and resolve all the conflict between them. So I think once you go
Yes.
in that conflict resolutions, and that's a professional hired to completely remove all the conflicts, and then start
Yes.
building it up, the businesses. Once the
Yes.
conflict will going to eat up the businesses, and the same way innovation will add to the businesses, which is transform into a wealth generation. That was my thought. Thank you.
Very true. No, nicely put, Sanjeev. Thanks for sharing it. And it's very important. Very important. See, mistakes, I've been just noting it down, what Sanjeev, you shared, Mr. Goel, you shared, Sushil, you have been sharing. And it comes to 3 to 4 mistakes which, as mistake number 1 seems to be focusing on short-term techniques rather than long-term. Mistake number 2, coming from Mr. Goel, communicating in a way that no longer serves the need of the family. You have to have a communications. Communication should serve the purpose. Third, I just made a note right now, which Sanjeev, you also mentioned, planning for financial wealth, only financial, for the and intellectual capital. Right, Sanjeev? What you shared? Because know-how is there.
Yes.
And finally, making the commitment required to achieve a long-term success. That's Sushil mentioned about getting the spouse together, having accounts, people not having it. So these are the common 4 mistakes which have been happening. And it is very, very important to ensure that we don't commit this. To take this discussion which we have opened up today and we have been sharing, and just sharing with the group, any business families who would be interested can reach out to us. In future, in the coming week or so, we are also planning one-to-one interaction for business families who are interested, where 2 or 3 of our senior consultants can meet, which can be initially free of cost. So we are planning individual sessions to help business families who would like to understand and go forward. Mr. Goel, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, it's something like just summarizing the other way out. Like you focus on your maid, you focus on your servant, driver. You never give focus to your CAs, advocates, the doctor.
Yes.
But generally, you see, one should have the moment you are going beyond one level. Like I will say that the people who are employed, they are better managed because they have a limited scope. So they manage their finances and everything in a much better way than compared to a businessman. Some people who have created that vision, definitely they do wonders and they survive beyond generations. But most of the time, what happens, they go on a model where what they like, they do. They never go as per the planning. They never go with the end in mind that what action I'm taking now, how it will converge into what kind of problems and what kind of conflicts it will create. So we need to, once
Right.
you can see that down the line, 5 years, 10 years, you are going to build up a wealth. That is the time when you should start looking at making multi-generational wealth management. It is not once things goes beyond hand, and then you start preparing it. It's like before murdering somebody, if you think what will happen to me, you can never murder somebody. So once it is done, then coming back is a difficult task. Sanjeev is enjoying and passing on a good smile. I mean, I took up this example.
The example was very interesting.
I mean, if you have killed the egos of the next generation, or maybe your brother or somebody else, then you really cannot re-invoke that interest and the relationship once again.
Very true. Very true. So it's a huge perspective. It's a completely holistic approach to a wealth management for multi-generational. Sushil, any comments, anything you want to point out before we wind up?
So this is the thing when the challenges come. You need the simple solution is that you hire a professional who can help you out, build the gap between the two generations, and professionally manage all your wealth as well as the rightly said, and intellectual property as well, not only finances but also the family culture and everything. And it will help them to create a long generation to generation wealth.
And as we don't have more queries, I would like to sum up the webinar. Thank you for participating. Thank you, Sushil. Thank you, Sanjeev. And all my retractors, thank you very much for joining. Hope it would have added some learning to you. Thank you all. Thank you, Sushil. Thank you, Sanjeev.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sandeep.
Well.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you, Sanjeev.
Thank you.